Shane Saracen here with another hot topic or whatever you want to call it, a discussion point about drummers. And today it is about snare drums. And it's like a lot of snare drums or one snare drum. What is essential to a drummer? Well, first off, let me just say one is essential no matter what. Anything beyond that is a luxury. However, I'm older, or through my life, I've collected a lot for different reasons. Sometimes I got into collecting at one point. I've gotten rid of a lot, but sometimes I was just searching for a sound that was different than what I had and whatnot. So let me go back to the beginning. With one snare, you can accomplish most of what you need to do. It doesn't mean it's a perfect snare for everything. I still have the second snare drum I ever had. I don't have the first because I traded it in when I got my second. When I got a full drum set, it came with the snare, so I got a different snare. I still have that snare. It is a great snare drum. It is a Premier 2000. It is an aluminum, chrome-plated aluminum drum with cast hoops, and it had the extended snares, kind of like a Ludwig Super Sensitive. I still have it. It's great. To me, it's a better orchestral use or a jazz type snare drum than it is a hard rock snare drum. My opinion. Now, over the years, I've gotten a lot of other drums. I tend to gravitate, though, towards aluminum. Is it because that was one of my first? I don't know. Aluminum and brass are where I spend a lot of time and effort with drums. I do like maple. I do like birch, all that kind of stuff. However, if I was going to repeat my life in drumming, is it better to buy one snare drum? Or let's just say, is it better to buy a top of the line snare that let's just use $1,000 as a point. There are some snares that do cost that. Or to buy a few that are less expensive. And if I was going to start the whole process again, I would buy a few, then spend $1,000 on one. And the reason why is the quality of some of the drums is very, very good now. And there's a lot of different levels. Would I buy three student level drums? No, I wouldn't. I would buy, I guess I would call them not beginner, but intermediate type drums. And I would buy a wood drum of some kind, probably maple or birch. I would buy a metal drum, probably aluminum or brass. And then I would buy something that might be smaller, so I could tune it higher or deeper and have this. And the reason I say that, to have that luxury, is to have snares for different gigs. Let's say you play in a metal band and you get hired to go do a jazz gig and you grab that snare. It's not tuned for jazz, it's tuned for metal. Are you going to go through that process every time to change the heads, whatever? Because it's designed to sound a certain way based on what you tune it to and how you hit it. And having a something that's ready for jazz one minute and metal the next, you've got it covered. So if you have a few, a couple to three drums, you can cover a lot of bases and be ready to cover a lot. If you're into one genre, you can get away with less than that. I always like to have two because I've been in situations where I've broken a head and then turned around and grabbed another one and threw it on the drum to keep the show going. But to have a variety is a nice luxury. It's kind of like a studio drummer. If you see some of the interviews and stuff where they talk about, they show up with a whole array of snare drums because time is money. And they may get one snare dialed in for a song, and then the engineer or the artist might say, I don't like that sound on this one. You have something else. They're not going to tune that drum. They're often just going to grab a different drum. They say, what sound are you looking for? I'm looking for that 80s deep snare sound. Oh, whatever. And there's effects now they can do, the big fat snare drum, to try to change it to get some of that. But I feel like, I deserved the ability or the right to purchase the snare drums because that's what I wanted. It's kind of like people who buy, I have cymbals that are geared toward jazz. I have cymbals that are geared toward heavy rock. I have cymbals that are more in the middle of the road. I'm ready for whatever life brings it at me. And if I was in let's just say a metal band, I wouldn't want to take my top of the line Artisan Sabian cymbals out and beat them to death. I wouldn't want to do it. Those are for jazz. So I would take out my explosion crashes and whatever, the metal ride or the raw bell ride or something that's going to fit that music. Same thing with drums. Now, with drum heads, you can get all kinds of different sounds and stuff you want. I'm just saying that for me, I chose a path to accumulate. Okay. And I did get rid of some along the way too. And I'm getting ready to get rid of a bunch because I don't necessarily use them anymore. But I'm always going to have a handful that I'm going to keep. So for the youngster out there, get what you can afford, make it work for you. When you get to a certain point and your musical path is starting to split, you're doing a pop gig over here and a jazz gig over here, and then you've got this original hard rock band, and I've got a recording studio over here, and then I've got my video studio. One snare drum, it can be difficult to cover all that. And then time, you might have a gig, but you have to shoot something or record something that day too. If you got another drum or a couple, at least you can cover all those bases. So there's my point on it. Both work, both have their needs. As if I was young and they said, "Oh, you got $1,000 to spend," I would buy a few snare drums that fit into that category to cover the bases versus buying one top of the line. But if you've got the means and you want to do that, then by all means do that. I just try to think about what's going to work. Same thing. I have a jazz kit, and then I have a bigger kit that can be broken into lots of different, styles and whatnot based on what I'm playing. When I was in Boise in a house band, I had a kit set up all the time for that gig. And then if I got a call, depending on what the gig was, that was in different hours and where I had to be somewhere else, I didn't go down there and take that kit out. I took a different kit. So you do what you need to do based on what you need to have. So all that being said, I'm a snare drum guy. I love them all, and I have no qualms with having what I have. I will start downsizing some of it, but to the young people out there, get what you need, and as you grow as a musician, decide then what's best for you, because nobody else is going to be able to tell you. They can only offer advice. That's what I'm doing.